I've been working on building my first SaaS product, or I guess it's kind of a community website, but nonetheless, it's an online business idea that I had. Well, my wife and I had, and I've been working on that. And I've had a lot of problems, I guess, that I've come across. And a lot of them have been like first timer problems because this is my first time trying to build a product that I'm actually going to market and try to make money with. I've built little side projects before and I've been a software developer for 7 years. So I know how to build stuff and I know how to design stuff, but I've always done it in a corporate setting. I've always been a cog in the wheel. I've never been a one-man show. And I want to start off by saying when you build your first SaaS product, you're going to have a lot of first-timer blues. I guess that's what I'll call it, where you're just not really sure what you're doing. You're kind of trying to figure things out as you go, and you're just really fumbling around. And there's a lot of times when you feel like you're just not making progress and you're spinning your wheels on stupid little stuff. That's one of like the biggest problems I think I had, especially early on when I first started building this thing. And my wife kind of was the one that had the idea, and we worked on the idea together, and she had a better, more clear picture of the problem that she was thinking of solving with this, and I was just going to be the coder. But what happened was that we kind of got detached there at the very beginning, and I would almost consider her a co-founder at this point because she's been driving a lot of the ideas and I've been doing a lot of the building. At the beginning, when she kind of just gave me a general idea, the first thing I said was like, oh yeah, I can build that. The coder in me, before doing a lot of research, before actually going out and seeing if there was like a product market fit or anything like that, I just decided I'm going to start building. Now we do see a fit for this product, and we do think that there's potential for this to become something that people use, but I wasn't worried about that. Like me, as a coder and somebody who just wanted to jump in the code base and start building something, that's all I did. And I figured, oh, okay, I need like these basic features and I'll start building that out. That's probably one of the first like real problems that I had, was that I didn't think about what we needed to build. I just started building. I didn't really plan out what I was going to build. We didn't really talk about the core features that it should have for an MVP, and we didn't really discuss the problem that we wanted to solve too much. Like my wife gave me a general idea and I was like, all right, yeah, I can run with that. And I got into the weeds of coding. And something else too that kind of plays into that I have as a separate bullet point that I was going to talk about. But as a first time SaaS builder, I would say that one of the problems that I had was that I don't really have a stack that I build my SaaS products in, because I have a stack that I worked on at work, which was like Java and Spring Boot with Angular, but that wasn't sexy and I didn't really want to build in that because it's not really a common stack that people use to build micro SaaSes or little products like that. And I've always heard of Next.js being kind of the go-to for building things fast, but I have very little React experience and I have never worked with Next.js. So what I did was I have to go learn this stuff and I have to go figure out how to use this stuff. And the way that I approached that was more of I'm doing this as kind of like a learning project rather than like building a business. While I wanted to get stuff out quickly, I spent a lot of time learning, and that's okay, right? Because the idea is that with your first product, you build this, the next one that you build will kind of use some functionality of it. Now you got your stack and you kind of know what you're doing in there. So the next one will be quicker. And then by the time you're done building your fifth SaaS product, you're a pro and you can spin up your own boilerplate template and get your product up and running in a week. At least that's the idea. So I went in head first, coding, learning a new stack and not being sure whether or not it was the right stack. So then another thing that kept happening to me early on and still is happening now, 3 months into building this thing or 4 months into building this thing, I am still having like shiny object syndrome. And I'm still thinking like, maybe I made a mistake going with Next.js. Maybe this isn't the best way to build stuff. Maybe this isn't how I want to build my next projects. And I'll be honest, I kind of do have some of those feelings. I kind of do feel like I don't know if I want to continue using Next.js after this project. There's been a lot of problems that I've run across and things that have been harder to implement than I thought they were going to be, and things that seem to be a lot easier to implement in other frameworks. I'm currently checking out Laravel, things like auth and setting up a database and setting up emails and just all of this stuff that was a lot of work to get going in Next.js seems to be easier in Laravel. I digress. But what I'm saying is that I kept having a lot of shiny object syndrome. And that caused me to get very distracted and start like researching other stacks or really going deep into figuring out whether or not I needed something and whether or not it was something that I was going to use, like different libraries and different stuff that would be for features that didn't exist. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I was planning to build for the future without having actually built the things I needed to build right now. And another thing that I should have mentioned earlier that didn't necessarily have to do with shiny object syndrome. It was more of like not planning everything out right away and not really knowing the stack that I was going to be building in. Early on in the project, I built it with Strappy as a headless CMS. My idea was that this was going to be a community site and that there was going to be a blog feature for it. And I was like, well, maybe my wife can write the blog, so I'll build it with the headless CMS so that she can go in and just, edit the blog articles in Strappy with the UI that they have there, and then it'll just be automatically uploaded, and that would take care of that problem. But then as I built out a whole bunch of functionality for this site, I started to find that Strappy wasn't my best solution. It wasn't the best tool for what I needed to do in this application. And I realized that I would have been better off going with a more traditional like Postgres database. So then I ended up like rewriting all of the Strappy backend stuff that I had wired up for like a bunch of functionality, and then moving that over to Supabase and using Postgres, and then using a lot of the Supabase JavaScript library to make a lot of my calls and my saves to my database and all of that stuff. And it was just like, man, what a big mistake that was. And that was so much work. I was getting so frustrated. And at one point in time, I was ready to like scrap the whole thing and rewrite everything. And I feel that that's something that a lot of developers do. And I got to say that that was a huge pain for me at the beginning of this project, and like a big mistake for it being my first SaaS and my first like real product that I'm building. It could have all been prevented if I would have just done a little more research on like what I was trying to do and what the best solutions would have been for the thing that I'm trying to create, rather than like getting in there and trying to write code right away and then shiny object syndrome thinking that I needed a cool headless CMS to do like one little part of my application when really there was so much more stuff. And then just integrating a lot of stuff that was completely new to me and getting stuck and getting really frustrated and spinning my wheels was really, really rough. Again, all these little problems that I just mentioned feel like the first timer blues for building a SaaS product, but that's some of the stuff I want to talk about. I got some more bullet points here. Let me take a look. Just a couple other things, right? I mentioned like building a bunch of features without really knowing the problem that we were trying to solve. And we do know the problem we're trying to solve. It's just I keep building more stuff for other things that are assumed problems that wasn't the main MVP reason creation for this. Like it's like little features and getting stuck on like trying to make things perfect. I'm realizing that I made a lot of mistakes doing that, and building features for users that don't exist and then trying to make them perfect is the dumbest thing that I could do, but I couldn't help myself. And I think that that just is one of those things that comes with experience when you're building a lot of your own products, and when you've built a lot of micro SaaSes or little startups on your own. You've probably gone through this, right? But I'm going through this now because it's my first time. And it's definitely a mistake that I've seen other people talk about, but I still couldn't help myself from doing the same thing. Another thing is I guess this falls under perfection as well, but I found myself like trying to optimize things that probably didn't need optimization, or trying to follow really good coding standards as you would at a job that you're getting code reviewed, and you want to keep your code dry and you want to make it really clean and maintainable. And your code should be clean enough for you to understand or maintainable enough for you to understand. It doesn't need to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be production quality code that you would push to a enterprise database. Like at the end of the day, I'm building something that's going to have, if I'm lucky, a few thousand users, right? I'm not building something that's going to have hundreds of thousands of users. And as long as it's maintainable and the code quality is decent, it doesn't need to be perfect. And over optimizing stuff that I've tried to over optimize has been like just such a huge waste of time. It's almost a way of procrastinating, because there's a lot of work that I need to do that's more important, but a little more boring, or I'm not like feeling the desire to do that. So then I'll start working on cleaning up the code base and just doing stuff that is causing me to procrastinate. That's all it is. It's procrastination. Just sitting around like, I have to do this one thing that I really don't want to do, but hey, I'm going to go sweep this room over there. Or you know what? I need to wipe down the mirror in the bathroom. Or hey, let me go fold my laundry. It's like, no, dude, go do the work that you're supposed to do and stop trying to find all these other little things to distract you because they're a little bit easier, and you don't want to go do the hard work, or you don't want to go do the boring work. And that's what I feel like it is. And I think that perfection over optimization and then building out like these little things that don't really matter and aren't critical to the success of your application or getting it going for an MVP, I think that's all kind of part of that. And I fell for that as a beginner and building my first SaaS product, and just want to share that with you because I think you should avoid it. I was warned and I still did it, but whatever, it is what it is. Another thing is that my wife and I are just starting to market this. And the truth is that I could have marketed this a lot sooner. I felt that it wasn't quote unquote ready. And I don't think it'll ever be ready at this rate. And I realize now that doesn't matter. And my wife and I are now trying to market this to the people who would be our users. Didn't really mention what the app is, but it's for traveling families to have like a community website where they can interact and figure out where other people are going to be at and talk about groups that are being hosted and things like that. The idea was that it needs to be good enough to ship, and it felt like it wasn't good enough to ship. And as we share it now with people who are kind of in our inner circle or friends or like our first users, which are not going to be the people that hear it from the people that are using it. It's going to be more like our friends that travel, or even some of our family members that just kind of get on there to check it out and give us some feedback. I feel that this thing has been ready for a while now. And the only reason why we haven't marketed it was because I personally have felt like it's not good enough, and it's been good enough for a long time. And everyone who sees it says like, oh, this is great. This is really cool. They give me feedback, which I really need that feedback. And I need like real users so I can get more feedback so that I can implement the things that users actually want, rather than building out these stupid little features that I keep adding to it that are only being added because I think they need to be in there. And I still don't know how people are actually going to use this. And I might find out later on that I built out all these features and nobody actually uses them. And the thing that they actually want isn't even built yet. And I will only know that if we get real users, but we haven't gotten real users yet because I'm a perfectionist and this is my first project and I want it to be perfect. And done is better than perfect every time. And I need to stop messing around. I need to get it out there and I need to get some real feedback and start making some money with this thing, because I've spent a lot of time on it and I would like to see at least one paying user on here. And I haven't even got that yet. And I think that one of my big mistakes is that I waited too long to push this thing out and market it to people. And that's probably why I haven't gotten any users yet. So that's just a few of the mistakes I've noticed that I've been making as a first-time SaaS builder. And I wanted to share that with you guys because I know that many of you are aspiring developers who are learning how to code, or maybe even already know how to code and you're trying to land the job, or you're trying to build your own business. And as I start building more things like this and I start going through more of these motions and I start understanding this process better, I want to share it as I go because I'm just learning like the rest of you are. And even though I know how to code, this is all a new experience to me. And I like to share this because I think it's helpful. And I like hearing these kind of stories as well because they help me. And even though I've heard a lot of the stuff that I've said in this video, I still made those mistakes because I'm a beginner and we all got to start somewhere. And why not share it on the internet so that people can learn and also maybe get a laugh from a first timer like me who's making a whole bunch of mistakes. All right, with all that said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.